What is the end to confusion? It can seem like our life is full of confusions, choices. Confusion is what? There are multiple choices and we don't know which one to pick. No? So what is the end to that?
Chaos, Father. Mental chaos.
Well, chaos can help in a way that we seem to run out of moves at a particular point. And when we run out of moves, then we may find, if it is grace, an alternative mode of knowledge, an alternative mode of being guided from where we can follow the guidance without having to analyze it, compute the alternatives, just follow wholeheartedly. So when we let go of the mind, so when we leave the way of the head and we start living in the way of the heart, you see, that is the end of confusion.
The heart is silent.
Yes, and that silence is also the end of confusion because we know that there is nothing to do at that particular point then.
I don't have much to say. It's okay. Thank you.
So what happens is many times we feel that my head is full of ideas, options, opinions, but when I go to the heart, it is completely silent. So then the silence means that we don't need to rush. We have to learn to trust the silence of the heart more than the highest opinion of the mind. And when we start to learn how to do that, then our life becomes simple. It may not be easy, you see, because the guidance from the heart may not always be easy, but at least the confusion has gone away. Yeah. And once we are so attuned to listening to our heart, living in the presence, living in God's presence, then our life becomes very straightforward actually. So the attempt, as we come to the discovery of God within ourselves, the Atma within ourselves, the Atma is also the greatest guide that we can ever have. It is the greatest teacher that we can ever have. In fact, it's also called the Sadguru presence. So this Sadguru presence is that which all of you are here to meet. You come here to meet that presence because there's nothing special in this man that anyone should want to meet him. But that which speaks through him, that which uses this as an instrument, everyone has to meet. It is the greatest gift that we can give to ourselves and has to meet within ourselves. And the external master is an instrument, is instrumental in getting us to that holy meeting within ourselves. So it is not that we let go of the mind and then we are just left in a robotic, mechanical state. Many times when I say allow the presence to move you, it can seem like, but isn't it too robotic or vegetative to just, oh, is it moving like, it's not like that. It's the most natural way to be. To live in the light of God is the most natural way to be. It's only because we have got used to the unnaturalness of living with mental oppression, mental slavery, that we don't follow. A life which is empty of God's light is not worth it. And therefore, a moment which is lived empty of God's light is not worth it. Otherwise, we can quickly say, oh, yes, a life without God is worthless, but that has to be lived moment to moment. Otherwise, we can always postpone it for later and say, yes, I have met God 5 years ago, He gave me darshan. and I'm sure that when I'm dying, he'll take care of me. I'll be fine. But that's a big mind trick. It doesn't matter what happened 5 years ago. It doesn't matter what happened 5 minutes ago. Are you living in God's presence now? So all of these tools, all of the practices, everything in satsang is so that we learn how to live moment to moment in God's presence, moment to moment in God's light. Because otherwise it's just a zombie existence.
So when one says a mantra, it's for God's sake.
Yes. Everything in our life should become for God's sake. Can our life become a temple for God? See, in our life, the body, of course, is a beautiful instrument which we can look at as a temple, but our life itself must become a temple for God. You see? So that's a useful thing. No? So when you say, when the mind tempts you with things, you can ask, so does this help the temple in any way? That's a very good question to ask. The mind will say, no, no, just do this, it's okay, have some fun, live it out, whatever. Yeah? But is that useful for the temple? What kind of space are we creating for God in our life? It's okay, all of us are sinners to some extent, being that we all, just to clarify if those are not clear about my definition of sin, which is that all of us have moments where we want to do things by our own terms, live with self will, all of these things. But, and we may pray to God and say, yes, I am selfish, I am foolish, but please, will you grant me the privilege of your presence? Because nobody really is worthy of God. God, in His magnificence, is so beyond what we can imagine. So we can not say that I'm entitled, worthy in the sense entitled to God. We can only pray for His grace, that He blesses us with His light, that Atma is apparent to us moment to moment as we go through our days. We're living truly in the light of the Sadguru presence. So to be completely selfless is also the highest, most selfish thing we can do for ourselves. You see, it's very, very important. You see, to be empty of our false self is to empty the lane for God. But to recognize that without God, what is my life? What is my life without God? It's hell, no? And the mind's attempt is to make it a palatable hell. So we must make sure that our spirituality doesn't become part of the mind's project to make this mental oppression palatable. And the mind will give us some chota wins here and there to make us seem like the game is still worthwhile. I know all of us who are parents uh, have played games with their kids. And if you keep winning, you don't let them win even once, within a few games, they don't want to play anymore. Even at a very young age, that ego is there. You see? So that's why as parents, we've all let our kids win a few times so that they continue to play the game. So the wins that we get in the world through worldly means, through the mind, are wins like that. The mind also knows that this one will become too dispassionate. This one will become vairagi if I don't let them win once in a while. See? So we get those small, tiny ideas of achievement once in a while to make us keep playing this losing game of mental slavery. Not a moment of being a slave to the mind is worth it. Especially because the alternative is so grand, it is so magnificent. Live in the light of this universe, that which is the light of this universe and a light of millions and trillions of universes. That is available to you. Why would you replace that for some half intelligent noise in your head? What do we have to lose? Just my way, no? What do we have to lose? Just you don't get to be Frank Sinatra singing my way.
Actually, it's the body that terrifies me. When my body is in pain or suffering,
Yeah.
that's when
Who's
I go
keeping
to
the body alive?
God is.
How many processes are happening in this mere one body out of 7 billion? There are trillions of processes. You see? Who's running all these processes so intricately, so beautifully? You see? So God is. So if that very God is the one that I'm talking about, which is running this entire universe with its gazillions of things like this effortlessly, that is one alternative. And the other guy is the one who gets stressed about, should I come to Bangalore or should I stay here? You see, which one would you pick? Which intelligence do you want to pick? The one that is truly running this, is the creator of all life and that which is beyond life, or that which even 2 3 variables start to stress it out. You add 2 variables, you add one more variable, by fourth variable we are gone. Most of us can't deal with 2 variables. So much we trust our mind, but we have no intelligence with the mind. It's very, very lame compared to the true intelligence of God. So who can do a better job of taking care of the body? And the one who claims to be the custodian of this body is which one? Whose body is this anyway? The one who can say, my body is not the body. No? Who is this one who's saying, my body? Same one who says, my relationship, my money, my bank account, my this thing, my house, doesn't exist. So don't fall for any tricks. So what happens is that somehow, although all of you trust me and you have faith, what probably happens after satsang or even in satsang sometimes, the mind will come and say, it's a bit too far-fetched. No? Let's hedge our bets a little bit. It may be not saying it in those words, you see, but we find a way to hedge it somehow. You see, I saying, let me balance it out. You see? On one hand, let's put God, you see? And what was the equal weight we'll put on the other hand to balance it out? Yeah. This is the favorite thing that everyone says. No? Balance mein karo, balance mein karo. Don't overdo it. Okay, so God on one hand of it, spirituality. What should be on the other hand? Lies? Lies? Selfishness? Pride? How will we balance it out? With what?
Doubt.
Yeah, doubt, lies, lack of faith is doubt.
You,
Fear.
a sliver of doubt and you're gone.
Exactly. He just says, but can it really be like that? Is it really the right path for me?
Yeah.
Is it really the right path? And how many lives will we spend determining the right path? How long will we spend? Can we not see the mental tricks in that? Just postponing. Just getting in the way of a full surrender, full faith. We have the supreme privilege of even endeavoring to live a life full of God's light. We have such a beautiful chance. Don't lose it all in catering to one that doesn't even exist. Just a fiction, just a made up set of ideas. How much time we spend protecting the non existent one? Why don't we instead cater to the light in our heart instead? All of your lives can become pristine temples to God's light. What gets in the way? What about me? What's in it for me? So, whatever mantra we choose to chant or not, we must not chant the ego's Maha Mantra, which is what's in it for me? What's in it for me? What can take God away from you if you are with God in your heart? Tell me what can come outside in this play of light and sound that can take you away, nothing can take without your permission.
Well, this one feels guilty. I'll have a few wines and I'll say, oh, that is so unspiritual. I'll have some.
You'll consume some spirit and say,
I'll have a little bit of chicken and I'll say, oh, now you're having non-veg.
what's most important is I've given you a way in which I'm not giving you a path to God. Well, in a way it is, but really it's not meant to be a path to God. It is a path as to how to live from God.
That's what you need to clarify, Father, because I feel I'm becoming the image of spiritual, of taking a position of image of spiritualness.
Yes. So what I'm saying is that it's not about, I feel the way to God is quite straightforward. We have to be empty of ourselves. Straightforward in terms of what we need to understand about it. May not seem straightforward to do, because we have to let go of all our righteousness, all our pride, all the things we think we know. You see, but my path is to show you how to live from God's light moment to moment. You see, your mind is carrying you saying, if you do this, then you will not find God. If you do this, you will not find God. All of that. I am telling you that God is here. Find God now and allow God to lead your life. Then all of this. So most of our conversation today has been about decision making and multiplicity of paths, or how to pick and what is right, what is wrong. Now, the only way to determine the goodness or rightness of anything is whether it comes from God or not. See? Now, if we don't live in God, then how will we ever determine that? Then we just speculate and say, Acha, it's written like that, God likes this. It's written like that, God won't like this. That is what ethics is for us. No? But I'm changing it for you. I'm saying that follow God moment to moment. Follow His guidance moment to moment. That is truly ethical. Why would you have to speculate if God Himself is telling you moment to moment? Why do you have to refer to a reference book if He's there telling you? First, we have to empty ourselves so that He can live through us.
So first, the courage, please let me clarify. The courage can be that we stay in bed and just stay in bed until the Lord God Guru nudges us to do the next thing.
Yes.
So we have to have the courage to simply wait it out.
Okay, let me make it even simpler. Suppose you wake up one day, or tomorrow you wake up, and you feel like, what God? This is flesh and blood. This is the world. What is this talk of God? The mind can come like that first thing, in the morning. So, whatever I told all of you, don't leave your bed, come what may, till you have not found God's presence. Till you don't meet God in the morning, don't leave your bed. It will become more and more natural and easy. It will not seem like it takes a lot of time. But if in that particular day, for the entire day, you do not meet God, why would you want to spend a day with such a person yourself and inflict that person on other people? So don't leave your bed. It's good for you and for the world. You see, nobody needs another ego in the world. So it's completely true like this. Like if I woke up one day, I'm fully egotistical. Why would I want to inflict that on my family and friends and work colleagues and people on the street? Why? The world doesn't need another ego. So I better shut up and sit in bed. It's not that difficult. The mind will prod you, of course, and say, oh, so much time is being wasted, so much, we have so much to do, all of that. Nothing, it's all nonsense. Things are only worthwhile in God's light. Things are only meaningful when God is there. Things are only good and right when God is there. That in whose light, in one wave, the whole universe can change. We are comparing that with wasting time because we have not sent one email or something. Our mind cannot fathom the immensity of God's light and what I'm saying. So that needs some faith to follow what I'm saying. It needs some faith because some days it'll just rush you and say, no, today is not the day for this stuff. Go finish your work. Those are the days, especially we must. Don't inflict your ego on yourself or to anyone else on the world. So that's why I've given all of you the Atmadarshan Samadhi also. If it seems like you can't just be by yourself and come to presence naturally, then spend a few minutes. It just takes a few minutes to breathe a little bit, pray a little bit, rather than catching up on our WhatsApp forwards in the mornings and the good morning messages. Let's say good morning to God. So make that investment on yourself, on God, and then the texture of your life will start to change. Start living moment to moment in God's life. Then throughout the day, you can naturally be in God's light, and you'll start to notice. You see, you'll seem much more constricted and limited when you're not in presence. You see, okay? It's like you're universal, and suddenly with your mind being selfish, something you'll see like that. You see, so something will start smelling that limitedness much more easily. You'll get accustomed to that smell and use that as the trigger to return to God's light. Your mind will fight with all its might, saying, yeah, easy for him to say, easier said than done. All these stories we've heard for a long, long time. So don't fall for them. This is easier done than said, actually. The more innocent you are, the more humble you are, the more truthful you are, the kinder you are, the more loving you are. And all of these are interrelated. You don't have to make a checklist. If you become more humble, you'll automatically become more caring, loving, faithful. All of that will happen. So it's like a table. You pull one leg, all the legs will come. You don't say, okay, now today my humility stuff is done. Tomorrow my truthfulness has to happen. Day after my loving, all that stuff. I mean, it's sweet, but you don't have to do that. You become humble, then the rest of it will start to flower by itself. Faith will dawn. Become faithful, you'll become humble. It's all one thing. Just like to follow one thought will give you all the limitations that the mind has to offer. In the same way, follow the nudges of your heart, and everything is resolved in that. If we were just to close our eyes and ask ourselves, what is this for? We know in our heart. See? Many times we're reading, we're just collecting, but we're not assimilating. No? Sometimes we read just one paragraph, enough. So, we know in our heart what is what actually. We know when we are fooling ourselves. There are many spiritual ways to keep away from God. And those are very, very, very tricky because we feel like, yes, but I'm being spiritual. It's for God. But you know in your heart.
So just enjoying the beauty of that moment, or the beauty of the words, or the beauty of even a singular wine is a praise unto him. Is it not?
Not always. That's what I'm saying. We can't templatize it. You see, because the same thing could be a distraction from Him or could be praise to Him. You must be able to live from God to make that determination. So we cannot either beat ourselves up too much or provide ourselves like Advaita excuses for bad behavior. Either way it goes, no? So how to determine? Only based on where it is coming from. Did it come when you were empty of yourself? And this is very tricky. This is very tricky, and that's why I've given you 3-point formula, no? How to check whether you're really coming from the heart. So the simplest, the least subtle is whether there is a presence of unconditional love. As you're getting guided from your heart, is there a presence of unconditional love? That's the most gross, but beautiful. The second is whether there is a sense of presence which is apparent. That is a little more subtle. And the subtlest is my reality apparent to myself? Is who I am apparent to me as this guidance is emerging? Because this reality is apparent to you only intuitively. To recognize the Nirguna as myself can only happen in the heart, only happen intuitively. So if your truth is apparent to you and guidance is being received at that moment, then you can trust that guidance to come from the heart.
You know, Father, I wrote to you a message and I said I had this inner knowing that he was here.
Yeah.
Is that presence?
Yes. The here-ness of him is his presence. We also call that the sense of I am. The Atma and his presence are not two. So the I amness, which is Atma itself, is actually his presence. The presence of Paramatma is Atma. So that who is here is only him. Nothing else is actually here. He is a living being available to us. Or we can say his living being is available to us. It's a very important question. And I've been looking at it the past few weeks, that I am the birthing ground for consciousness. Consciousness takes birth within myself, but I am also the most foolish servant of God. So all the advice, most of the advice is for the second one, the one who needs to learn to be in servitude to God. Because if that second one gets a hold of the notions of the first one, it gets a hold of the first one notionally, like I am that, then that's the birth of a new Ravan. बस मैं ही मैं हूँ मंजिल, मैं हूँ सफर भी. It can come from the first place, but that has a fragrance to it. You see, it has a fragrance of God's light. But if it becomes this, what is that dialogue from Sacred Games? हाँ, कभी कभी लगता है अपुंज भगवान है. That one you have to be careful of. Because what happens to that one later? I don't know if any of you noticed the symmetry. That one later said कि हमारा लाइफ तो उठो नहाओ पिटो सो जाओ. So meaning that once your spiritual ego gets activated to that extent, then suffering is bound to follow. But we don't, like the mind doesn't allow that connection to happen. It makes a pattern out of all things, you see, except pride and suffering. It doesn't allow us to easily see that. Only pride can suffer. Only pride can suffer. And all of us are proud. There's hardly anyone in the world who feels like they are proud. Because we have the very like stereotypical ideas of pride, no? Like we walk around in half, look at everyone like they're riffraff, like that. That is the idea of pride. But pride is to know through our mind when we could know through God, to live with our mind when we could live with God. Is that not pride? To live on my own terms when God could have guided me, that is pride. To know things for myself, thinking I am right when God could guide me moment to moment, that is pride. So this we don't notice as pride. And nobody truly does it with the idea that I don't want to disturb God for this. He's too busy, so I will take him. We may say that sometimes. It's not true. We feel that we are smart enough, we know enough. We don't know a single thing. We don't know how to move a finger. Nobody knows. You know how to move a finger? Nobody knows. Maybe I can move fingers. See, how did you do it? Yeah. Yeah. Supposedly, some nervous system gets activated, neurons fire in the brain, and I promise you, none of you know how to fire a neuron. Nobody has a trigger for a neuron. So, if it wasn't for God, all this would not be visible to us anyway. And yet, we love to take credit for the me. Till that me is being served, Father is telling me nice things. Oh, I know how to deal with life better. There's lesser stress. There is more love. All that feels very nice. Everybody is happy to stick around. But there comes a time for most of us in satsang where that me comes into spotlight and the masters suddenly become very choppy. See, that is the time when we want to run. It's too hot. It's too hot. You see, but the heat is inside. You see, or something, and you want to run. You must just be careful of that. Just be careful of that. That when it's time for the mirror to be shown, and you see that there is really nobody there, that is the time where the identity really wants to take off. Since it feels like it's in big danger. So that's why satsang like this is not always feel good, because the the thorn has to be plucked out, and it can seem like it is painful when it's being plucked out. That's the time where many distractions will come in the world. Perfect relationships will start to show up. Huge money making opportunities will start coming up. You see, many things will come. So usually my thing is just sit down, keep quiet, sit down. No. See, when the distractions come, when we're about to let go fully, all the distraction will come. Mhm.
Or fear.
Fear. The
Anxiety.
distractions just feel like a relief for the fear. You see, why does the distraction seem so appealing? Because the mind is creating fear of dissolution. So because that fear is there, then when the distraction comes and says, "Oh, this is my soulmate. I have never met a man like this before." You see, they just feel like, "Oh, that's it. You see, this is I could give my life for this." So what has happened is that the whole Krishna and Narad story, plays out. Yeah. What happens? It can seem like a relief. And it can happen in spiritual ways also. Like I've seen it happen so often where in satsang, if somebody's been told to inquire and don't leave the inquiry till they come to a true recognition, then they go to another satsang, there they've been told, you don't need to do anything at all. Everything is just as it is meant to be, which is also true. You see? But then they hear that and that seemed like relief. Oh, so I don't have to inquire. I'm fine, just yeah. And quickly what happens? Our conditioning starts playing again. We are back into the same mold. So we must just follow our intuition, follow the Sadguru within. Because that's the only guide that's available to us. Otherwise, this whole Chakraview is too complicated. Should I go left or should I go right? We don't know, but your heart knows. The mind can also pose as Shiva or Kali. A good tip for this is to slow down as much as possible. Live your life in slow motion, not through the bodily movements, but inwardly keep things really slow. Then most of the tactics of the mind will not work. Because the mind always wants to rush you. Okay? So if you just make it really slow, really soft, be spacious with yourself. You'll be fine. Yes. Most of the tricks of the mind work because the mind rushes you first. It says we have to do this now, decide now, finish. Somebody will call you, say you have to decide, what are you waiting for, do it fast. So don't get into anything. Don't ever be inwardly rushed. You see, Guruji told me this story. We were in Tiruvannamalai and we were walking on Kannappa temple, close to Kannappa temple. And by then he had become a recognizable face in Thiru. So like 10-15 of these sadhus came to him asking for money. And he said that, no, I'm going to slow down and follow my heart. So he told me later, after that whole thing was over, that it can happen, that when you're rushed in the world, then suddenly the mind can come and say, okay, what now? Okay, like this, we can become just slow. Then, then your heart can just guide you. Just slowly. Inwardly slow. Outwardly, that could look like furious movement. But your inner space should be open, slow, fresh, soft. Maybe we add this Satsang. Just soften every position you have, you'll be fine. Remember, we add this Satsang? This soft. Outwardly. No, inwardly. Just soften every position. So name a position like anything. What did you report?
Love and light.
Okay, so let's say I get confused about what to do. Should I do this mantra? Or should I do that mantra? So that's also a position. I'm confused. So soften that up. Yeah? That is super soft, but I think I'm a little bit confused about this. Then that feverishness goes. Soften it up a little more. Oh, there's sometimes a very slight confusion. You see? Okay, just become even more soft about it. Then it just usually just dissolves. That which we take to be so big and important and strong, just soft, soft. That is the way of the heart. It is not so conclusive. This one is like this, you must always do like this. The way of the heart is very slow and steady, not rushing usually. We even stop giving ourselves so much importance also. What is better for me? What works for me? What doesn't work for me? It's me, me, me. And all our life we go making a perfect life for me and then we die. Nobody ever achieves it. It won't be that I'm truly longing for God in my heart and I'm not able to listen to my heart yet because it takes time. It takes time for us to settle into our heart. But God will not provide the right master to us, not the, the what we need to hear, what we need to experience will not show up in our life. I don't feel like it can happen that way. It's more a problem of our being unable to follow, our being unable to let go of our own terms, our own knowledge. So to be empty is the bigger struggle than the availability of guidance.
So, am I right in saying that to be empty is to be free of all concepts?
Yes, it's a conceptual emptiness.
Conceptual emptiness. We first have to recognize the concept.
Every thing from your head is a concept. Every thought from your mind is a concept.
But you know, Father, normally the head, the mind is saying innocuous things are like something that's happened in the morning, something you plan to say to someone next day, or it's just nothing.
Yes, mostly it is all not even nothing. It's just this thing. But what it tries to sell you in most of these, even innocuous, harmless seeming things, is the sense of personal identity.
Yes.
And as long as we hold on to the sense of personal identity, that is the me that has to be cleared up from the growth. Even the most innocuous me.
But you know, Father, me cutting out me, that's tough.
Yeah, that's why I've given you the way.
Well, I'm saying quite a lot of ADS, you know that.
I've seen a lot of
I'm saying a lot of ADS, you know, Father.
ADS. Yeah.
And yes, there have been wonderful, wonderful things that are happening to me. But again, it's a concept.
Yeah.
Me cutting off me sounds like big trouble.
Sounds like trouble or sounds difficult?
Sounds difficult.
Difficult. It's actually, if you're doing ADS or anything wholeheartedly, then all that is needed is to just allow these thoughts to come and go. Now, not every thought is tempting for everyone. A few thoughts may seem like they get more belief from us, you see. So that gives you an insight into your deepest attachments. You see? So, for example, it could be thoughts of our children. We're able to let thoughts of our money come and go. We are over it. But something says, "Oh, what about my children? What about my child?" You see, So if that gets your belief, then that is your attachment. So
Yes.
then we use that as an opportunity to surrender that attachment to God's feet and say, I notice that I am empty except for when the mind triggers me about my children or about something in particular. So I surrender this to you, God, and please make me empty of even this. Let them be in your care and let me recognize that your grace is taking care of everything. And may I not be so tempted to pick up my individuality when my thoughts are on this topic.
Yes.
So those thoughts which we have nurtured with our belief often, those can seem very magnetic to us still, or those areas, those themes. So we can inquire into those themes or we can surrender them. We'll come to a point, all of you, where for me, like solitary confinement doesn't seem like a prison sentence at all. It seems just fine. It's supposed to be the most difficult prison sentence. Because of your bad behavior, you'll be in solitary confinement. Seems fine. And God is in your heart. There's nothing to worry. So it's very important to learn to rely only on God. And if you can start living like that, moment to moment, then even death is not such a fearful thing. And even how you die is not such a fearful thing. Because mostly I've heard from many of you who say, I'm okay to die, but I don't want to die painfully or in some way. Then that will be okay. If you learn to rely on God for everything, then that becomes your inner anchor. Nothing can shake you in life.
The, sometimes the same thing, like you said, something keeps coming up,
Yeah.
and that just seems to block. That this taking shape and coming out and
Yeah.
taking shape and coming out. It's so
Yeah.
tiring and so
Yeah.
like so exhausting.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's such a joy to meet what you're saying,
Yeah.
and there's just
The thing
this.
is, I was just going to say, and somewhat, in some way, this may be like an answer, but I was just going to say that even in this satsang, we're still, even in these words, we're still taking God to be a sort of fiction. See, I'm not, I don't know how to communicate. Huh?
Father, it feels like
If
fiction
we
when
realize that God is the very substance of our existence, is the highest being, then all the concern about what happens, all of that.
I'm hearing you, like it becomes a fiction when I take a bit, and then I, yeah.
How do we break the molds of spirituality. The molds of spirituality then put God also in sort of a limited container. No? Like even in, like, words are so inadequate to really convey what I want to tell all of you. And sometimes I feel very happy with what comes out, but sometimes I just feel like it's so timid. No? Yeah, it's so timid compared to God's light and magnificence. Like,
Father, this thing that I uh, I see there's no one, and still I take myself to be someone like, and this dialogue is also
yes.
this is what
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not. I don't know words.
Actually, the seeing that there is no one is quite simple.
Yeah.
The seeing that there is no one takes a moment or two of inquiry, and we all see there is no one. It's the taking which is the trouble. It's the mind's temptation which, but. That is the main thing. So when we are taking the limited self to be true, then it may be a useful reminder to see who is it. And we see that there is no one, so that may help in some way. But usually when we are doing the taking ourselves to be something, we don't want to look. We don't want to see that there is no one. Because actually somewhere we know that it'll go away.
With certain things I feel I know.
Huh?
Certain things
Yeah.
I feel like I know. You know, about what you're doing, where you're looking, how I'm being.
Yeah.
You know, if I am like this, then this. Like
Yeah.
these kind of things are so silly, but yet they why am I even like buying it? Sometimes I'm just surprised that
Yeah.
this disease that it's like a disease to have.
Yes.
It's
Very good. So that mode of knowledge, that mode of knowledge we must completely let go of. What do you know? Okay, let's look at it another way. That which we know conceptually, how much do we really know it? Look at any belief that we have.
I don't know.
If it was exactly, and if it was that true, then a Byron Katie could not just ask are you certain it's true? Are you absolutely certain it's true? And the strongest beliefs, they start to shake. You see? So that is the state of our mental knowing. Like, I know this. You say, are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? And these two questions, most of the things are gone. So this mode of knowledge cannot be relied on for any true knowledge. But what can?
My true self.
And self-knowledge, heart knowledge, intuitive insight.
I want to say something.
Say.
I don't know how to say it.
Start off.
Like, I don't know how to say. I don't know what it is. Like it's like a comfortable hell zone to go into,
Yeah.
and that I don't want to go into it anymore. And I don't care what the reason is. It doesn't matter to me. It gets triggered over everything, and its main thing is insecurity. I don't feel secure in that moment, and then I want to be included as a person. I want to be included as someone.
Yeah.
And that hurts even more. More than the initial problem. I don't know what I'm going on, Father.
No, it's good. I hear what you're saying. So, first the mind punches you one way,
Yeah.
which is that I want to be. And then when you notice that you're buying into the I want to be, because your spiritual identity can come and punch you and say, oh, you still want to be. So it's a 1-2 punch in that way.
And that time the mind, that checker guy is so
Yeah,
evident because
exactly.
it'll say that, oh, you self-concern, be empty, and it'll
Correct.
go ranting with like one after another point-wise
Satsang.
solutions, and they don't work. And so I don't want to enter it, and I don't want
This
to.
is from where?
Huh?
This one? Are these also from that? Like what? Now?
Yeah, there is an attempt to solve it, like
Be empty of that also. Now?
mixing some rubbish. Ideas of like how it should be.
So that's happening in the playground of the head. Is there another playground? Which is that?
It's this presence. Yeah.
So build a house there and don't play in the other one. Oh my God.